Welcome to Just Koryzma, episode 56. I'm your host, Brayden Koryzma, and joining me today is Robyn Allin-Lundago. How are you?
Hello, good, how are you?
Pretty good. So Robyn is here to talk about addiction. She grew up around it, but she was able to break the cycle and not fall under that same category, and she was hoping to share that story and inspire others to make sure that, they don't fall into this pattern or, also can break the cycle.
Mm-hmm. So I grew up in a home where, alcoholism was not a secret. My dad was quite a boozer, and thankfully after my mom kicked my dad out she just knew that, being a single mom to two kids would be easier than dealing with a drunken father.
Basically a third kid.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I know there was one day where she just she had enough, and there were a series of a bunch of events going on, and I think I was about 1 and my brother was 3 at the time. So she kicked him out, and a few years later she snapped out of it herself and realized that she couldn't go down that road, and so she walked into her first AA meeting. I think I was about 5 or so. I remember going to meetings with her pretty much.
Makes sense though. You gotta take the kids because you got, can't just leave them at home.
Yeah, and my dad was very in and out of the picture, and even when he would show up to pick us up, he'd be drunk, and my mom would have to deny him to see us and take us, and it was always a big ordeal. But so I remember going to meetings with her ever since I was super young, and I'm very thankful that she found that group of people that were able to show her what life was like again, sober, and so she was able to be the good mom that she's probably always strived to be for my brother and I.
For sure.
But unfortunately, I think that my brother was old enough to kind of remember a bit of the negative impact my dad had. And so I think, I don't want to speak too much on his part, but once my dad left, the dynamic changed quite a bit for both of us. So I think it kind of probably affected him a lot different than me. And, here I had my mom who was choosing her life, choosing herself and her kids to get better and, evolve as a much kind of more, successful mom, or however you want to put it. And then, there was my dad who just couldn't get it together. And if we're going to fast forward, he never really grasped it. He was always working away out of town, or, it almost seemed like the older I got, the further away he would work. Okay. So, for example, when I was in about grade 5, he lived in Victoria, and then grade 7, he moved up north to Fort St. John, and then he moved up even further north, and it almost seemed like he's always been trying to run away from something and self-medicate, and which is why he's always turned to booze. And his dad died from alcoholism as well, so it really runs in the family, and he was really abusive mentally and physically, so he didn't really have the right person to look up to. And then so I kind of grew up with the absence of my dad, but I was okay with it because it's all I really knew. And I had my mom, so my mom did the best job she could, and I've always been, a beacon of light, I guess. Even as a kid, I always was just very much doing my own thing, sitting outside talking to myself, or just whatever. I was very much my own happy kid, and I kind of always was that way up until I want to say I was about 14.
Okay.
So we lived in the same childhood house until I was 12 or 13, and then we moved to the North End, and that is when everything kind of started to hit the fan, so to speak. It was when I kind of came to realization of how sick my dad was, and I remember walking to school when I was 13 or 14, crying, listening to P. Diddy's I'll Be Missing You, because I literally thought my dad was going to die, because my mom was explaining to me the reality of being an alcoholic and what it can do to your body and how detrimental it can be to you.
Totally, it's super hard on your body.
Totally, and I'm very thankful that my mom always she didn't leave us in the dark. You know, like we didn't live in a whole, she didn't shelter us at all. Like where we lived was very much like there were cops coming to, I lived in like these townhouses.
Okay.
And so there were always cops around and people running from the cops and people partying at the end. And so I didn't realize it though, because I was so young.
Yeah.
Right? But my mom wanted to protect us as much as she could without sheltering us. Like I remember we went down, there's a, like that skateboard bowl on Bell Road.
Yeah.
And I remember going down there because my brother and I didn't want to eat our soup. We were being snobby little children. We're like, we're not hungry, just not what we want. So she's like, whatever, we'll put it in a jar and go bring it to kids that want it. So I remember going down to the skate park and she went up to these kids and she's like, do you want some soup? I'm like, yeah. And they ate it so fast. And then I remember this other time that we went, it was, I guess when laws were different or like when things were a little better, or not better, but whatever. And she took us down to the jail and she told us to go into the jail cell and the jail guard like closed the door and she's like, this is where you'll end up if you're bad. So she had such a funny way of doing things, but it
got the point across.
Totally.
Like, right? Like, no one wants to sit in front behind those steel bars. Like,
yeah. So, you know, like her way of doing things was kind of different, but it worked and I liked her technique and whatever. But yeah, so fast forward to being a teenager and kind of just realizing how hard it was to grow up without a father figure around much. And he's always been kind of mentally abusive. He's never been physically abusive, but like some of the things he said to me is no one should ever hear anyone say that to them, let alone their father.
And the hard thing is like once it's out there, you can't take it back.
Totally. I've always, and that's why I've always said, you know, like mental abuse is almost worse than physical abuse because it
sticks with you, right? Like it'll like literally, it's like you know, if someone like one of your friends said you're stupid and just stuck with you. And, you know, you think about it all day. Like, am I really that stupid? Like, why am I this stupid? Like, why does he think I'm this stupid? And then it's just like it's just a circle, and it just keeps going and going and going. And
totally,
like, it could drive you crazy.
Yeah, well, and especially when you're a young adolescent female and you're trying to like figure out your hormones and your body. And you're coming to like who you are as a whole new different person, really. And then it's like trying to figure yourself without that pivotal or that like super important role in your life is. I didn't realize how hard it was until I was older. I just, like I said earlier,
it's just like
it's all I knew, right? So I just did the best I could and stayed out of trouble in high school. As you know, just kind of I didn't really party. I just kept to myself. I had school friends, but then once I was home, I had international students, so I just hung out with them and I don't know, watched YouTube in my room, and that was kind of my life. I've always been a little bit of a hermit and. Now I take pride in it, but before I was like, why don't I have any friends? But yeah, so when I was 18, that was kind of one of the huge turning points because my mom actually relapsed on drugs. And I think it was kind of a combination of her being worried about my brother because I forgot to mention, he got into drugs when I was about 13, 14. And so he started experimenting with ecstasy and smoking weed and like he was, you know, just kind of difficult and, you know, stressful on my mom and with her already having certain triggers around addiction and, you know, being in recovery, it was, I can only imagine how hard it was.
Yeah.
And so she relapsed and so I think the reason it was such a turning point was because my brother was out you know, doing his own thing and all messed up. And then she was all messed up and my dad was, you know,
wherever he was.
Far away, all drunk. And so they'd all be calling me bitching about each other or, you know, like I was getting the wrath from all of them in different direction. It was like, I'm this 19-year-old kid, essentially, that doesn't know much about life. But it just, I don't know.
It's a lot on your shoulders, though, you know? Like, just getting, like, you're hearing all this negative, and it's just, like, negative comments being thrown at you, like, and you're just like, I don't need this. Like,
and it was hard. Like, I never knew what it was like to put boundaries up to protect myself. I never knew what it was like to have that enough self-love and self-respect to be like, no, don't treat me like that. Who do you think you are? Because I don't know, I just, you know, when you're told certain things and you're told to think, oh, well, family's family, your dad's your dad, it's like, okay, well, I can just take the abuse, and it is what it is, you know, because I always thought that's how it was supposed to be, because that's how I was, I mean.
And it takes a while for, like, you know, like I don't really have much of a backbone, but like I do more now than I did ever before. 'Cause, I mean, not that, you know, I ever had to face any crazy things, but, you know, someone gets in my face, you know, my back, like, in comparison to me before to now would be much different.
Totally.
So I mean, I see what you mean by the boundaries, and actually, like, you know, putting your foot down and saying, like, no, like, this is enough. Like,
yeah, totally. So yeah, I kind of broke a bit. I still stayed away from, you know, like, whenever I drank, I would cry because I'd just be worried about my mom and about my family. So
totally.
I didn't really drink for a while. I just kind of have always just kind of kept low and laid low and did my own thing. And it wasn't until, so I moved up north when I was 20, just before I turned 20. Okay. I just needed to get away. Almost everywhere I'd go, I'd either see someone that resembled my mom, or I would, you know, like, I needed to
like,
get out.
You needed to, like, almost go somewhere where you could be mentally clear.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't see a familiar face. You wouldn't see, like, it'd just be like, essentially like a fresh start, but just like, or like you can almost
change
think
of
about
scenery.
Extended vacation, or just like a change of scenery.
Yeah. And because my mom did get clean. She got clean. She wasn't using for too long. It was only about, I think it was under a year anyways.
Which is good.
She's amazing. She cleaned herself up, and you know, she quickly realized that, holy shit, I can't live this long, or I can't live like this, or I won't live this long.
Yeah, totally.
And so thank God she got clean, but I had that anger and resentment in me that I just couldn't get over. I couldn't move past it. So I just needed to distance myself, and my brother and my dad were living up there at the time, and so in this, like, skewed, weird mind and world of mine at the time, I was like, okay, well, I'm mad at my mom, kind of, so I'm gonna try and maybe fix things with my dad and my brother. And so I moved up to Fort Nelson, where they were living at the time, and my brother moved home shortly after and went off to rehab, I think. Yeah, he went to rehab, and my dad moved home, you know, a few months even after that, and he really wasn't doing well and was drinking lots up there and stuff like that. But I stayed because I was with someone up there, and then I just kind of, over time, I just realized, like, I'm not happy. And the last about 6 months that I was up there, the guy I was with at the time, his family was really Christian, and so I was kind of starting to, I had this interest of finding some sort of, like, faith to believe in. So I tried learning about Christianity, and, like, it didn't really make sense to me. That's just my experience with it. But then it kind of gave me that itch to find something that did resonate with me, and that's kind of where I found, like, my whole spirituality, and that kind of resonated with me. So I almost want to say that was one of the turning points when I kind of was able to, like, grasp this idea that gave me hope, so to speak. Yeah. And then so I moved back home, and my ex and I got a dog when I was up there, so brought her home with me, and it kind of has been this crazy roller coaster since I moved back about 5 years ago. But it truly, I don't know, it was transformative, because I finally started to meet the circle of people that I felt comfortable around, and, you know, I just started to come to a realization of, you know, I'm my own person. I don't have to define myself as, you know, the addicts in my family, or not even that, but just live in their shadow, I guess. And I don't, like, when I was a kid, people used to be like, oh, you're so-and-so's little sister, and they'd be shocked because him and I were so different, you know. And it was kind of nice because I moved away, and then I came back, and I was able to almost start over again, because
no one had seen you for that, like,
so it was almost like, hey, let me reintroduce myself. I've been gone for this many years, and now I'm back, kind of thing. But so I moved back, and it was a couple years of up and down, and just figuring out who I was as a young woman, so to speak. Totally. And then one of the super pivotal moments was when I got a job dog walking with another company, and that was incredible. It was amazing. I worked for dogs when I was, or for dogs. I worked with dogs when I lived up north in Fort Nelson, and I loved it. The lady I was working for is amazing, and she was super passionate about rescuing and,
sweet.
you know, like a pit bull lover, and it just really, I don't know, lit my soul on fire.
With you, eh?
Totally.
Yeah.
And so when I moved home, I knew that was something that I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure in what aspect. So I applied at a couple doggy daycares, didn't get the job, and that's how I ended up dog hiking, because I didn't give up. And so through people that I knew and, you know, such turn of events.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go into detail. I ended up starting my own.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and at the time I had 2 dogs. I had Chevy, my boxer, that I still have, and then I had Socks, my pitty cross, who I adopted from the pound, who had to be put down, but I'll get there. But at the time, I had both of them, and, you know, I just thought, okay, well, Socks isn't super socialized. That was my boy that I had. And he wasn't super socialized, so I wanted to work with him, and I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to just feel confident, I guess, with what I was doing, and just, I don't know, I was just craving something more, but I've never been a school person, so I didn't,
I get you.
And I didn't know what I wanted to go back to school for, so.
And yeah, like working with Socks, like the harder, you know, the dog, it's a little harder. It's like, it gives you that experience that, no, you can, you know, you have the patience.
Totally.
And then you'll also, you know, be able to kind of see what worked with him and maybe try it with other dogs.
Yeah.
And see if that would work, or like or at least gives you more ideas of what you can try.
Totally. And so so I started my business about 2 years ago, and it's been the most exhilarating, but I don't even know the word I want to use to describe it, but it's been the most definitely one of the most pivotal things I've done for myself, because there's been a lot of times in my life that things have taken huge turns, and like, you know, things have changed that were out of my control, but this was the first thing I did that was my thing. I did it, and it was something I could be proud of.
Totally.
And so, yeah, so I think that truly is what started the growth. And because I'm outside with animals, like I'm a huge empath, so I, you know, like the energy of the dogs is just so healing, and always has been. And, you know, my dogs were getting socialized, they were getting exercise, I was getting exercise, you know, it was just the best of all the worlds. And I just kind of, I don't know what happened during that time of dog walking and of having my own business that I got to this point, but I think it allowed me to be independent the way that I wanted to, and it made me feel like you can do this, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Totally.
You know, like, no matter how many people that have told you you can't do this, you're like, what, you're crazy, what are you're gonna do that, what? You know, there were so many people, I don't want to say doubting me, but like, oh, having your own business is a lot of work, or
like they're like trying to be realistic, but you know, they're not trying to say don't do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, if you don't shoot your shot, how will you know if you're not gonna like, for all you know, you could try the business and be like, you know what, you're right, I don't like running my own business, I'll go work for somebody else.
Totally.
And
it's kind of funny, because then I was working at Starbucks at the time, and I was thinking about the idea of starting my own business and, you know, humming and hawing about it, and then all of a sudden the name of my business clicked in my head, and I was like, I like that. And I took that idea and just went with it, and next thing you knew, I had clients, and it took off from the get-go, and that's kind of how I knew that I was on the right path.
Totally.
And then about a year into having my business, so this was about a year ago, I kind of was at a point with myself where I couldn't allow my family to continue bringing me down, because it was just continual with my dad, and just so many excuse my language, but fucked up events.
Totally.
And like, you can only be called a selfish see you next Tuesday so many times, and like feel like you're less than dirt from someone that's supposed to bring you up and give you an example of how people are supposed to treat you. And I guess, you know, so I just finally broke, and I was like, how do I get through this myself? Like, no, that's not how I should put it. But it was more of like, how do I stop this cycle? Like, how do I stop the internal banter, and how do I kind of break past the point of, like, I've never stooped to their level as far as addiction and as far as like using, but they still brought me down to their dark level and their level of misery. So I was finally like, how the hell do I get out of that? Because I was constantly being pushed down that hole, you know. Like I'd crawl
like
all the way up, and then someone would step on my fingers and fall a little bit farther down.
It's like emotionally draining and less like it's physically exhausting too, because
Totally.
you're just like, you know, when you're bothered, you're upset, you feel tired, you feel like worthless, right? Like you're just like, why am I even doing anything? I should just literally just like lay here and just like, I'm like, you're not a punching bag, right?
Yeah.
Like
Totally. And so it was almost at the point where I had everything that I wanted. You know, I had amazing friends. I was kind of in a toxic relationship, but from the outside, I had everything that most people would want, so to speak, to be happy. And I did. Like, I had my business, I had 2 loving dogs, I had a partner and whatever, but I still wasn't happy because I wasn't fulfilled, and I don't know, there were still things keeping me from feeling my greatest and evolving and whatever. So I finally was not stubborn, and I found myself a counselor, and it was the best decision I ever made.
That's awesome.
And because for the longest time, people would be like, Robyn, you should go and unleash, like go talk to someone.
Like
it will help.
Yeah.
But then in my stubborn years of what the hell are they going to tell me that I don't already know? They're just going to tell me like, oh, well, there's nothing you can do to help them. And there's, you just have to do this, this, and this. But I think I had to get to that point of like that breaking point to realize that I wasn't going to counseling for them to tell me that. I was going for me to release and for me to talk to someone that had a biased opinion and someone that could hear me for me and try and lift me up and not, because I was really good at pointing the finger at my family and blaming them for why I was the way I was, but you can only do that for so long. Like you get to a point, or like for me anyways, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm 20, was I 24 or 25 at this point? I can't remember. Let's say 25. I was 25 at this point. I was like, I'm midway of my 20s. I can't be blaming other people anymore. I had to take the bull by the horns and be like, no, it's up to me now.
Yeah, like at a certain point, it's, you've experienced the world enough, and you should be able to be able to see life a little more clear and see kind of like, all right, which path am I going to take right now? Yeah,
totally. So she, I can't even say enough good things about her. She's absolutely amazing. And then, so seeing her and reading a book called The Untethered Soul, which I suggest everyone to read. It is amazing. Those 2 things were kind of what really shifted everything for me.
Okay.
So I started to it took a while. It's taken still a year from that point to get to this point. But I will say that it, all that work and all the days where I'm like, fuck this, why am I doing this? I'm angry. Why was I served with such a messed up, hand of cards, so to speak, in the deal of life, whatever. There were a lot of times where I was just angry because I'm like, what did I do to be born into a situation like this? But then in changing my perspective, I'm like, hold on, not everyone gets the chance to even test their strength to the point that I have. My strength and everything has been tested so many times over and over and over that it's like, I know I can kind of take anything that's thrown at me, and not everyone gets that chance to be tested, right?
Totally. So a lot of people, when they fail, they might just be like, okay, this is where I'm going, and they just accept it instead of trying to, say no, try again. Yeah. I'm still going.
Yeah. And so I think for me, changing my perspective of okay, I can either let this get me down, or I can kind of be the light, so to speak, and use my story and my experience with it all to kind of make people feel like no matter what you go through, it's you can overcome it, and it doesn't have to consume you, and it will. It's consumed me many times, but it's just about not letting it permanently bring you back down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now I kind of got to a point where I was able to put up healthy boundaries because I got to a point that I finally did love myself enough, and And so it's really been in the last 3 months that the most like life-changing kind of things have happened. In August, I don't want to go into the whole story, but so in August, a really shitty event happened and my dog had to be put down.
Which sucks.
And I had him for 3 years, and he was like one of the biggest blessings I have ever had in my life. He came to me, I think, to show me what it was like to be loved unconditionally. And it was, I don't know, like we met and it was just like, it was instant connection. Same thing with Chevy and him, my other dog.
Which
like they met and it literally took them 10 seconds and they were like running up and playing or running up and down the thing playing. And
which is great.
I just knew.
Yeah.
And so they called me the next day and I, told me that I got him and I started crying. I was so happy. And then he just kind of fit in with our crazy little chaotic family at the time. But he was a lot of work. And so, I had to change my lifestyle pretty drastically, I went from taking Chevy on little leash walks on the waterfront often to having to go outside city limits to not see anyone because he wasn't socialized and he was a bit of a dick. And so in working with that, it was kind of, I changed my life a lot and I put a lot of my dreams and my goals on hold for him, but I kind of just accepted that as it is what it is and you're my dog and you're like my child at that point.
I was gonna say, you're not gonna just say, you know what, on second thought, I can't.
Yeah.
That would just suck.
Totally. And so, and he came so far and he transformed himself and he helped me evolve and, he was with me when I was in a long-term relationship and then once my long-term relationship ended and, I moved into my own place and it was finally my time to kind of focus on myself and truly put myself first for probably the first time ever because I was always searching for something in someone else or in something else. Like I was always chasing something to fill that void that I had from my dad or from just numerous things, right, that I missed out on, I don't know, as a kid. But so I finally kind of was getting into that mindset of not chasing anymore and finally kind of like looking inward and being like, okay, what is it in me that I can fill the void myself and not look at outside kind of outsider things. And when I started thinking about that, and then it was actually really strange timing because I feel like I'm going everywhere with this story, but the day before the event that happened that caused him to have to be put down, I was talking to my counselor about grief because we had been talking about how my dad's drinking he's so far gone that I'm grieving him and I feel like I've always been grieving a part of him forever, or not forever, but for a while because, when you drink so much and you're that into booze, it kind of takes you away. So the day before that happened, we were talking about grief and, grieving properly and going through the process healthily and everything like that. And then literally within a week of seeing her, I had to start grieving my dog. So it was just really weird. And I don't know, I'm super spiritual and I look at things as everything happens for a reason and the universe always has a plan. And so I saw that as, okay, Robyn, like this is your chance to truly have the freedom that you need. And it kind of sounds twisted because, like my dog being put down is a super sad thing, but I can, if I looked at it if I didn't look at it in that perspective, I would still be crying in bed every day because I miss him a lot. Yeah. But he taught me so much. And with him leaving, it also taught me, I don't know. It was almost like he was the last thing holding me back from moving forward because I would always worry my dog's too anxious or I have to look out for him or I can't go traveling because I have my dogs, whereas with Chevy, she is the easiest, most... You
can be like, let's go, and then she'll be like...
She is my co-pilot, has been since literally day one. So it was almost like that was the last thing kind of holding me. But now I'm just at the point where I'm putting myself first and silencing trying to anyway, silence any negative banter that goes on in my head. Yeah. Obviously, like, I'm human, just like everyone else. We have our days.
Some of it's going to get through regardless, because you're going to have, like, a harder day than another, which, so then it's going to make it worse. But as long as you can, like, you know, fight the, like, you know, fight any bad things and just, like, you know, stay positive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, like, you realize, you know, like, no, I've made the right decisions. Like, I'm here. Like, I could be, as you've experienced, you could be way down here.
Totally.
Or, you know, but, like, you're here, you're, you know, like, you have your own business. There's so many pros, so many pros that, like, it's just not, you know, that hopefully it's able to kind of help you instead of just being just so hit all the time by negative stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice because even though it took so much heartbreak and, like, just turmoil, I guess, to get to this point, it's like, as soon as I, like, I don't know, I don't want to say outed him, but as soon as I finally got rid of that final, I guess Socks wasn't like the final point, it was him.
Yeah.
And once I finally detached myself from that, it was like this, I closed one door and this other door opened to all of the opportunities and all of the things that I wouldn't have gotten had I still been kind of dealing with that. It's like...
totally, because it would have been like some sort of emotional, like, pull on you.
Oh, it totally is.
And then you're like, you know, you're like, oh, I could do this, but what if this happens? Or, like...
Totally.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's at least, you know, you've cut that string and you're able to, you know, you see the... like, not necessarily like a finish line, but you see a checkpoint, you're actually able to run towards it, right?
Totally.
Instead of just getting stopped.
Well, and it was hard because I'd be at a point of feeling so good about myself and, you know, getting to a point where I'm accepting myself and, you know, whatever, but then his voice would be in my head, or I'd tell him and I wouldn't get the response that I wanted, and so it would kind of not sit with me well, and then I'd just go back down, and it was this kind of always this back and forth of feeling really good about myself, but then getting put back down. Yes. Yeah. And so now it's like I have this feeling of freedom that I never really had because I finally let go of the last thing that was holding me down, and it's shitty that it was my dad.
Yeah, it sucks.
I think that it doesn't matter who it is. Like, if someone is in your life and making you feel worthless and making you feel like you're nothing. Okay, I shouldn't say nothing because he definitely didn't make me feel like I was nothing, but there were definitely moments where I questioned, you know, what the fuck all the time. Yeah. You know, and it took a long time to get to this point, but I think spirituality helped me so much because it helps me kind of just see the signs for, you know, the good and the bad. So, like, the red flags if something's not working, or like I've gotten to the point where I kind of like step into me and, you know, feeling, oh, does this situation feel right, or what's my body telling me, is the energy off here? Like, I really have to be mindful and remind myself of that, because when I'm not mindful and I start letting my thoughts go and letting everything kind of spiral, that's when it's like, whoa. And then I really have to
then you
snap back.
Just say, whoa, like, slow down.
Yeah.
Take a step back. Yeah. Reevaluate. Okay.
It took me a long time. Like, it used to take me longer to snap back, but now I can catch myself. So, for example, something as insignificant is when I'm driving. Oh, shit, why did I go this way? I meant to go that way. Oh, well, too late now.
Yeah, now
Whereas before, I'd be driving around angry because I made the wrong turn. Where it's like, it's all good.
Yeah, so you're going to get there. I mean, yeah, it sucks that you're going to, you know, be like 5 minutes later than you anticipated, but, like, you know, there's totally been times where, like today even, I was supposed to turn off at an earlier section, and I was like, that was my turn.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, I'll get the next one. Yeah. Like, I'll just turn over there. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Or there was this day where I remembered that, like, oh, crap, I was going to make that turn, so I sort of kind of cut in front of someone, but still they had enough room, and this guy was a miserable old fart, and he, like, followed me up to the light and pulled up beside me and rolled down his window, and he's like, are you going to get your driver's license soon? I was like, yeah, I have it. He goes, you cut in front of me, you're an idiot.
Jesus.
Like, just drives away, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with people? Like, sorry. And so it just, I don't know, but it's moments like that where it pissed me off, but it's like, it would suck to be you.
Yeah,
and I hate to say that. Like, that might sound offensive, but
his whole drive now is gonna be like, that lady who cut me off, like the whole drive, and he's gonna go see whoever he sees and be like, I was cut off.
Yeah.
And like, it's literally like he's taking that moment, like no one was hurt, everyone was fine, like nothing bad happened, but he's gonna let that ruin his whole day, like.
And it's sad, but it's sad how many people live their life like that.
I know.
And so I think just with a series of fucked up events with my family and just seeing addiction and seeing how it can negatively affect their life, and not only that, but just the people that love them and see, you know, like, I don't ever want to put anyone through what I have been through with seeing my loved ones in addiction, right? And it just, you know, I mean, I'm grateful that I don't even want to say luck. I don't think it's luck. I think it's just, I was blessed enough that, I don't know, I see the light, and I always kind of have been, or I always kind of have, and even when I was in the darkest hole, it was like, nope, there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, I see it.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you see that? I'm gonna get there, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, so I think it was just finding a circle of people that I genuinely feel safe around and feel like I can speak my truth, and, you know, that's really been something that I've tried to honor lately, and just always remain myself, and just, you know, always, I don't know, remember that no matter how shitty it is, it's not always going to be like that. No, you know, like, so.
And like, you will be able to, you know, if your situation bothers you like that much, you know, take a day or two, go see a counselor like you did, or just like, you know, think about like, you know, if something you hate, if something's going on in your life that you don't like that much, you got to figure out a way to change it.
Totally.
So I mean, the change could be a difficult change like you had to make with your dad, or it could be something as simple as, I'm just going to stop taking this path to work, and all of a sudden I'll stop seeing the guy that always gets angry at me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's all like this, it's just all you gotta find. You just gotta be ready to accept the consequences of your actions, like how your dad, you know, still kind of being a jerk.
Yeah.
And like, so, which sucks, because, you know, yes, like, I mean, it sucks because you want to have him in your life, but if he's not willing to also meet you halfway, and like, you know, clearly it's not that important to him.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that. It's just it's unfortunate that he has so many layers of so much trauma and so many issues that he just, unfortunately, his demons got the best of him. But you know, it got to, you know, like, I'm just grateful that I was able to cultivate the circle that I did feel safe around. Yeah. Because I think that's what made it easier for me to finally cut that tie. Because it was like, I have chosen family now. I have people in my life that do love me and that do want to be there for me and that do root me on. And, you know, like, if I'm having a shitty day or say something I don't mean, they're like, okay, you know what? You're in a shitty place. You said some things you didn't mean, but it's all good, you know? Because I tend to spew when I'm upset. But I mean, we all do.
Yeah, that's just it. We all go on a rant, right?
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about family is, like, it doesn't have to be blood related. Like, you could pick them. You could, like, they could be your closest friends, and you could be like, this is where I'm happiest. Yeah,
and exactly. And so I think for me, it was having my own place and just finding my voice and finding, you know, that courage in me to just put my foot down and be like, no, I'm gonna live in the passenger seat, or in the driver's seat as opposed to the passenger seat, because life is so short, and it just, I don't know.
I get it. It's not worth, like, you know, we only have like 100 years, losing like 5 years to like something that's just like, when you could, it's an easy change, it's an easy fix, or, you know, it might be a difficult change, but like, you know, that 5 years could be so much better.
Totally. Yeah. So, and I'm just glad that I kind of was able to grasp a hold on all the lessons that I'm learning from all this now, because honestly, some people never do.
That's just it.
So I feel very grateful and thankful that I am learning it and I'm seeing it for what it is, because a lot of my good friends are older. I've always had, you know, older friends, and some of my friends that are in their 40s are like, I'm just learning that lesson now. I'm getting... I'm like, it's crazy. Ahead of the game.
It's crazy to think, like, people's journeys, you know, like, everyone's going to get to the same point. It's just different on when they get to that point. Like, and some people get to it sooner, and you're like, oh, I wish I was there, but it's like, you're getting there, you're just not there.
Yeah. Like, well, and I think so many people focus on the big picture. They're like, okay, I'm going to be happy when I have that car. I'm going to be happy when I have that house. It's like, I used to think that way, but now I'm kind of, you know, I'm just enjoying the moment. And you know what's having an extra $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever dollars in the bank if you're not happy, or if you're living, like if you're not living a life that you're happy and proud of. It doesn't matter how much you have in the bank. It doesn't matter how big of a house or how nice of a car you have. It's like, if you're not happy and you're not living a life you're proud of, who are you living for? Who are you trying to impress?
Yeah, like literally, like you're not. I'm like, I don't live to impress anyone but myself. Like I'm exactly. Like my happiness comes before anybody else. Like, and if I like that's how it should be. I mean, like obviously, you know, don't be rude or anything to anybody, but like, you know. If you're super happy making $32,000 a year because you know you get to go on your vacation once every couple of years and you don't get to do this, fuck yeah, like do it.
Yeah, well, and for me, like even when I started my business, I had to do some reevaluating after about 6 months because I started to get money hungry. Because it was the first time that I had made more than $1,200 in a month because I was always working minimum wage jobs. So it was the first time that I was actually making decent money, and I was like, yeah, this is so cool. I'm getting a feel of this. And as soon as I started focusing on the money aspect of it, I wasn't enjoying myself as much.
Totally.
And I've never been a money-driven person. Money is not everything to me. I understand it's important, but it's not
it's not like, yes, as long as you can pay your bills, you know, and you put some stuff in the savings, it's like, perfect. So
I had to just take a step back and kind of tell myself, like, Robyn, you started this because you love dogs, you love being outside, it keeps you healthy. There's so many reasons and whys that I have behind my business. Yeah. And so once I just reminded myself of that, that's kind of what helped me stay on the path of
Which is awesome.
This is why I'm doing it. And now that it's brought me to this point, and you know, I know that I'm on the right path. It's getting past the thick of the crap and, you know, just working through the hard things that are essential to go through. I think, you know, like if you don't go through it and you just allow it to sit there, that's when you end up 50 having a mental breakdown and losing your marbles because you've never dealt with it. Yes. Well, yes. Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that, I just think it's important to look at the bigger picture, but also just enjoy life today and live in the moment. Because if there's one thing that I wish I did years ago, I mean, I know I'm not that old, so I feel like saying years ago makes me sound like I'm, you know, so much older, but I wish that I just was more gentle on myself and just was able to tell myself, you'll get there, you know, you'll get there and it will be better and you won't have to deal with this emotional I get it. Crap all the time, but I mean,
it's hard because you wish you could tell yourself it's gonna get better. Mm-hmm. Like trust me, because I'm here right now.
Yeah, but it's also the flip side to that, and the beautiful side of it is that I know that now, so I can remind myself. So when things get crappy now,
you're like, but think about, you know, say 7 years ago, and like however long it was, right? And when we were there. Now we're here.
Like, exactly. So I can be like, hold on a second. Before, I thought it wasn't going to work out, and it did. So even though this is crappy now, it's happening for a reason. And it's almost like whenever something crappy does happen now, my perspective on it's totally different because it's like, well, it's shitty, but it's part of my path. I'm learning something from it, and it's ridding someone or something from my life that's not meant to be here. So, you know, and that's kind of always been my motto and my new outlook on things. So
that's sweet.
Yeah.
That was a really incredible story. Like, I appreciate that you were willing to share it with us. And like,
I hope I wasn't too scattered. I feel like I was here, there, and everywhere, but that's kind of how my mind works anyway. So hopefully people are able to follow.
if they need more clarification, you have a video on YouTube that you can watch.
Yeah.
Totally. And like, like it definitely opened my eyes. I know I didn't have to deal with some of the same problems, but I mean, like, it definitely just like make me thankful for, you know, the life I was given, and like, it's great to see like that you broke the cycle. It's great to see that, you know, you didn't go into like the addiction with that, you know, get addicted to alcohol or drugs or anything like that, which is awesome.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm just this like ugly duckling that was not ugly duckling, but the black sheep.
Okay, yeah.
The black sheep of the family that was kind of...
That's just like Yeah, you guys will have fun over there. You guys do your own thing. I'm gonna be over here.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's pretty much always been that way. Yeah. But I'm okay being on the sidelines if it means that I'll be happy and live the life that I'm meant to.
Exactly. I have to ask this because I know it's getting in the show. But this is the part of the show called the motivational moment. How would you like to describe your passion in 5 words or less?
Okay, so I would definitely say enlightening, grounding, inspiring, evolving, and healing.
Okay, and so why would you choose those?
Because for me, when I think of my success, or not even my success just with my business, but just with my kind of...
Just like as your own self?
Yeah, like my kind of soul recovery or whatever. Okay, hold on. I'm going to start that again. I think just because, I don't know, with everything that I've dealt with, those are the key components that I've always come back to.
Okay.
So with, like I've mentioned a few times, with my spirituality and everything that I'm into and my faith with it and stuff, that's kind of what brings me back down and reminds me, like, the universe has got you, as long as you stay grounded and you just kind of stay
as positive as you can.
And it's, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole like spiritual awakening thing because that's a whole other topic in itself. But
yeah, totally.
But once I started kind of putting more of my focus into that's when my life really started to change. So I feel like those words really resonate with me, and it was in healing that I kind of was able, or healing certain wounds that I never really dealt with before, that I was able to get to certain points, and so
makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like all of those words kind of fit in with each other, and are like the catalyst from like they're all part of the equation.
That's really cool.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Robyn, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Where can the people find you?
I have my Instagram, so it's getwildgetfree, and my YouTube, I believe, is also getwildgetfree.
Okay. You can always message me if it's not, and then I'll throw it on there.
Yeah. And also, one thing I didn't mention that I should really quickly mention, one thing that really, really helped me was getting into art and putting my energy into art. So I make dream catchers too. And it was when I found that it was kind of... it was nice to be able to put my energy into something else and not just sit there and have my mind.
Not just sit there and think. Like, you think you can watch a TV show or something. Like, get my mind off things. No.
Yeah.
Like unless that TV show is somehow like whatever your favorite show is times 2 that can suck you right in.
Totally.
Like, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Like you need something that's like you're saying, art, some sort of like activity where you have to like focus, where you need to literally distract yourself.
And I think it's so healthy to have something positive to put your energy into instead of just, I feel like so many people nowadays just use social media or, abuse certain things that aren't really serving them much.
No, so using social media as an outlet, not particularly the best thing, but, whatever people want.
Yeah. So, I also have my art page, but it can be found on my actual page, so.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
You can find me at JustKoryzma on everything, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And make sure if you like that, hit the subscribe button, check out the other videos, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.